My pleasure now to not bring back, but to welcome Justin Demetri. It's bringing back to me because I see Justin semi-frequently here. Justin, how are you?
Great. Thanks for having me, Rick.
Well, it's great to see you, man. Last time I saw you was over at the Essex Maritime Historical Society or whatever. What's the official designation over there in Essex?
Well, the long form is the Essex Historical Society and Shipbuilding Museum.
Shipbuilding Museum. Okay. I took my Cape Ann class of teachers over there, and they were so impressed, man. They made a bunch of reservations to take kids and everything else, and they wanted to see you again. And you have surfaced now at Gloucester Maritime. Tell me a little bit about what that is.
Yeah, well, I'm the new guy over at Maritime Gloucester, and I've been doing some research behind the scenes. Of course, with as we're still trying to recover from the pandemic and everything, I haven't really, landed with my feet on the ground. So I've been doing some stuff behind the scenes, doing research.
Mhm.
And what we're going to do is once the museums are open up, I'll be taking more of an active role in tours and doing more research on the property itself.
All right. I should point out that over at the Shipbuilding Museum, you gave a talk over there prior to the tour of the Shipbuilding Museum in Essex, which goes back to families. I think it's the Story family and the Burnhams. I think
Yep.
they go back to the 1600s, and they're still in Essex. And you gave a terrific talk about that. How did you learn about what went on in Essex? Because that is preeminently connected to Gloucester, of course.
That's really where it all starts. As you probably already know, I mean, I grew up in the fishing industry down the fort. My family's still, a little bit involved with my dad's, lobstering and striper business. But our family owned an Essex-built dragger when I was a kid. So as I got more into the subject matter, you naturally gravitate towards Essex, since that was a very tight relationship, like you said. So to understand the Gloucester fishing, heritage, you have to understand the connection with Essex. They were the factory to produce the vessels that made our town famous.
And they're still building vessels over there. As a matter of fact, the family still is. And aren't there two examples of that in Gloucester right now that people can go out and tour the harbor in the summertime?
Sure, yeah. Well, our friend Harold Burnham, right, about 11 generations, as best as we can tell, he's still building them. He, of course, his first schooner, everyone around here knows that's a Thomas Lannon, owned and operated by our friends the Ellises. And then, about 11, 12 years back now, he built his own schooner, the Pinky Ardell, which is berthed at the dock at the Harriet Webster Pier down at Maritime Gloucester. And as you said, they are, in warmer weather, you can go out there for a 2-hour sail or even rent them for charters.
And it's a sight to behold every summer. And if you're in Gloucester more than once, you automatically recognize these two boats, and they're beautiful. And they're now, are they classic designs from years in the past that the Burnhams rebuilt or built from scratch?
Harold takes a lot of influence from designs from the past. They are fishing schooner designs. He would be able to answer this better, but they are modified to produce a craft that can be used as they're used today. So they follow all the modern Coast Guard safety rules. But for instance, the Thomas Lannon, when Harold built her, a lot of it is influenced on about a turn of the century sword fishing schooner design. And then Ardell, the vessel that Harold operates on his own, that's based on I would say a circa 1850s Pinky schooner design. So those are traditional Gloucester craft. You would have seen them actively fishing back in the day.
Yeah, it's amazing. If you go to the Cape Ann Historical Society, the Cape Ann Museum in Gloucester, you'll see paintings by Fitzhenry Lane that show Gloucester Harbor with those boats in the harbor, and it's quite a time trip experience, really. Justin, the boats that you're talking about here, we can see them in September on Labor Day weekend. We can see a whole bunch more of them. But to learn about them, you just said something about the name Thomas E. Lannon, and then you referred to the vessel as she. And we all do that. We all do that. And why is that? What's the background in sailors calling their ships she?
Well, I've heard various reasons for that. Some of them more cheeky than others, I guess. I heard or I read somewhere that the tradition in English begins with the British Navy somewhere probably in the 14th or 15th century. But if anyone asks me when I'm on a tour, I like to give another explanation, and I say, well, look at all those curves. How
Okay.
can that be a guy?
All right. And if you go to Disney World, they talk about, I think it's a small, no, it's Pirates of the Caribbean, the cut of her jib. So there you go.
You got it. Yeah.
Now, speaking of the cut of her jib, that's a phrase that I first heard from Joe Garland. And I met Joe a long time ago, and I didn't get to be as close with him as you did, but I did get to be able to call him on a first name basis. His knowledge of Gloucester, his knowledge of the sea, were second to none. And are you pursuing that same kind of goal, Justin? Because to talk to Joe and learn stuff, just as I've done already today from you, it's amazing about those of us who've lived in Gloucester a long time, how much we don't know.
Well, I mean, I stand on Joe's shoulders every day when I talk about this. He really got me into the subject matter. He made me confident in my own heritage and my own family's part in it. We all have a part to play, of course. But yeah, I mean, I don't think I could ever replace Joe. I don't think anyone could. He did a lot of the heavy lifting that a lot of us still, use in our everyday research. Not only that, but he was a newspaper man. So he knew how to tell a good story.
Yes.
So that's what's so captivating. And he would admit later on in our conversation, sometimes he didn't get the facts right, but he got the essence right. And that's what kept you reading. And that's what got so many of us interested. I mean, I know a lot of people that say they don't know anything about Gloucester growing up here, but we all know about Howard Blackburn.
Absolutely.
And we all know about Howard Blackburn thanks to Joe Garland.
Yep. That's so true. And yeah, as you say, great storyteller. He used to have a little program on, I think it was called Cape Ann Cable back then, Cape Ann Cable TV. And it was, now that's just a little piece of Gloucester, and he would end it.
Best. Yeah. We all watched those. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was fabulous. It was fabulous. But there is so much heritage, and you're going to be giving a talk on Tuesday. Tell us a little bit about that. It's a Zoom meeting that people can go to, and I will link to all of that too, Justin. But what's it all about?
Well, we're having a winter, early spring lecture series. It's called the 2021 Winter Lecture Series for Maritime Gloucester, and it's a way to get the ball rolling. We're hoping that we'll be open to some capacity in the near future. So we're starting off by having a month-long series of talks, and I have been elected to start it. Gulp. So what my talk's going to be about is the evolution of the schooner. We all, when we say schooner around here, we kind of know what we're talking about, but what we see as a schooner evolved like anything, like any piece of technology. So I'm going to be using one of the great learning devices we have in our Gorton's gallery, which unfortunately is currently closed. So Brad Story, one of those great Essex shipbuilders, carved a series of half-hull models to show the evolution of the design.
Yes.
And again, since no one can really go in there for the time being, we decided that we'll kick it off by showing, what the vessel that made Gloucester, and this is how it changed over time. And the models are just a great resource. You can really see how they change. They're all very accurate.
I've only looked at those quickly when I take a tour of the museum, because generally I'm following teachers around and showing them around. But yeah, fascinating teaching tool. And tell me a little bit about Maritime Gloucester, the building and the tour and so on when it does reopen, because that's a fabulous little museum that I think a lot of people aren't really aware of. And it's more than a museum; it's kind of an interactive place.
It is. I'm actually looking forward to giving my first tour. I'll know more about it after that, I guess. But
Okay, yeah, you will.
Kidding aside, as a visitor and as someone involved in a related museum that has collaborated, it's a really fun place. And like you said, it's not just a history museum. It's an interactive experience. As the historian, I'm gravitating more towards getting the historical part of it. I mean, we do possess the oldest fully operational marine railway in the country. That alone is worth checking it out, especially when they're hauling out vessels. But on the other side, the exhibits, the Gorton's Gallery, which we'll take a look at a little bit in my talk, the Stellwagen Bank Gallery to learn about the local ecosystem, the pier that has the Oyster Project. We have our Adventure, Ardell, and of course, we're going to be creating a brand new Maritime Science Center very soon, and expanding the aquarium. So we have a lot to show, and the future's bright down there.
And the schooner Adventure is nearby, and that, to coin a phrase, has a storied background. And tell me a little bit about your involvement with it, because Joe Garland, when Adventure first was rescued, was really key in fundraising to get Adventure back on the water.
If it wasn't for Adventure, I wouldn't have met Joe, and I probably wouldn't have gone as deep into Gloucester history as I did. My experience with Adventure started the day that she came in during that flotilla. Me and my cousin just happened to be jigging up mackerel on the state fish pier. A lot of people have heard the story before over the years, but essentially the boat came in, just wowed us. And I stopped fishing and I ran over, got to see Captain Sharp give over the title to the town. And then I made my way down the ladder and I ran into Joe and just told him, I really enjoyed his books. There were so many people there, he couldn't hear a word I said, which happened a bit later on too. But anyway, it inspired me. So after we sold our mackerel that day, I donated a couple bucks to the vessel, and from there, that's where my relationship with Joe started. And again, even to this day, he's still pushing me to keep at it, keep learning,
Yeah,
passing it on.
I miss Joe. I miss him. He was a real treasure, and I do remember him narrating the Schooner Festival on Labor Day weekend before he passed away, and that was amazing. His knowledge of every single boat that came in front of the boulevard was astounding.
Oh, I could listen to him. I mean, whatever he wanted to talk about. I mean, he knew it, but he had a way of, like I said before, he had a way of telling the story that made you just want to turn that next page or just keep on listening.
And he would hammer it home too. He'd make sure you understood it.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Great teacher as well. Well, Justin, I'm looking forward to this on Tuesday. I'm also looking forward to Maritime Gloucester reopening to the public. And I'm guessing, I don't know, is there a plan yet? Because here in Massachusetts, we have phase 3. Step 2 of phase 3 is beginning as of today, March 1. Are there temporary plans on when Maritime Gloucester might be reopening?
I am not privy to that kind of information just yet. I know the gears are turning. What I would recommend anyone is stay tuned to our website, stay tuned to our Facebook. We will be updating regularly. Okay. And we'll also, along the lines, if you can't get enough of us, I recommend checking out the rest of the lecture series. It's going to continue all the way to the end of March.
Yes.
And as information comes in, we will pass it along.
Okay. And tell me, and I didn't write it down, but tell me about the blog that you're involved with in terms of buying seafood or seafood buying.
That's my personal pet project. I run a seafood blog called buyingseafood.com. And it's a little bit of consumer information. It's seafood reviews, both products you'll see in the seafood market, the grocery store, things you can buy online. And it's just, one guy who, growing up never had to pay for fish, now has to pay for fish. So I better learn about it. So it's a learning experience. And it's been really interesting. I've met some very interesting companies, some fascinating people. I got to go to the Seafood Expo the year before last, and it's a fun project. I'm learning a lot about not just our own local seafood and how the industry is changing and adapting, but I'm learning about responsible aquaculture. I'm also learning about supply chains and logistics, how this fish actually gets to your dinner plate, and all that's pretty important stuff.
Are you compiling all this stuff, and we're going to have a book someday, do you think?
Well, it was the other way around. I self-published a historic seafood cookbook called
Huh.
From Head to Tail. It's on Amazon. It's really very ancient recipe, going back to late medieval Europe up until about 1950. It's done by species, and it's all as the recipes change over time. I made the blog to try to sell a few of those books. No one's buying the book, but the blog took off a bit, so that's not bad.
There you go. There you go. And finally, do you cook?
A little bit. I have to cook the
Bit?
fish. I have to cook the fish that's given to me.
Okay.
I do not consider myself a chef or anything, but like a lot of kids growing up in Gloucester, I did a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and I spent some time in some of our local restaurants. So it's not foreign to me. But I
Well,
wouldn't really consider myself a chef.
my wife is one of the Fort girls, and of course,
That's right.
she from a Sicilian background, and good grief, can she cook fish? Oh my, I can't. But I do know a lot of fishermen can cook as well. Does your dad cook too? Does he cook fish from time to time?
Oh yeah, well my dad was actually the cook on the family boat when I was a kid.
There you go.
Yeah, he doesn't cook a lot at my parents' house, but
Right.
oh yeah, it would be nothing for me to come home and he's frying up cod cheeks or whatever you got, or boiling whelks on the back of the stove.
Miss those St. Joseph celebrations, boy.
Yeah, things are changing. Fortunately, my wife is carrying on the tradition on a small scale. She's already got the countertop cleared off, so
Very good.
We might have some St. Joseph spice to this year.
All right. In fact, this is, I promise, my last question. What about the Feast of Seven Fishes? You guys do that?
It's never been seven. I actually didn't hear about the Feast of Seven Fishes until after I've already been to Italy.
Okay.
So it was always a seafood dinner. We never really counted seven. I think some years there probably were more than seven.
Yeah.
These days it's probably less than seven, but yeah, we're always doing seafood. This year, thanks to the pop-up retail truck at Fisherman's Wharf, we've been able to get lots of great local seafood, and actually one of the few really good responsibly raised salmon that I really approve of, Faroe Island, and we ended up having both for our Christmas Eve dinner this year.
Let's finish this up by your mentioning the Tuesday talk one more time. How do we get to it? What's it about?
Well, the talk is the evolution of the Gloucester fishing schooner, a story in half hull, and it's going to take place tomorrow night, Tuesday night at 7. You can RSVP on the Maritime Gloucester website, so maritimegloucester.org. You might also be able to find a link on the Facebook page.